Great, I'm joined by Stephen Piscatelli here, VP and head of our AI practice at 66 Degrees. Stephen, we talk a lot today at 66 Degrees and with our customers about building the agentic enterprise, helping them build agents and helping them just design and build the next phase of their business. Could you tell me a little bit about how you would define the agentic enterprise?
Yeah, so the agentic enterprise is really the evolution of the business operating model, changing how we do things, how we get things done. And before I go into it a little deeper, I like to think about the different eras of operating models, right? So the past era was the era of static tools, right, where people are working with static tools to execute tasks, right? But that was based on the click of a button or logic that was coded into them. Right now we are firmly in the era of copilots, right, where people are working with generative assistants, summarizing emails or sending emails, analyzing data, things of that nature. But that's very reactionary, right? That's based on humans kind of defining with a prompt. And now we're transitioning into the era of agents, right, of the agentic enterprise. And really this is where we move from reactionary, assisted to autonomous. So AI is given goals, executing, against those goals to help the organization meet its goals.
It's really clear. So 3 eras. I love how you're thinking about that. So the static era, the co-pilot era, and then the agentic or the agent era that we're working through. Stephen, we've needed to redesign our business and how we're thinking about and operating and serving our clients as an agentic enterprise. Can you talk about how you've thought through building your team and having your team work with agents?
Yeah, so it's been a bumpy road, a lot of experimentation there, but it all really starts with enabling people, change management, AI fluency. We probably had a little bit of an advantage. We came from that background, but there's definitely time that's spent there. But once people are enabled, right? They understand AI, they understand how to think about decomposing processes to take advantage of it. They kind of do the hard work from there, right? Their ingenuity ultimately defines what are the different types of agents that make sense, how do we stitch those all together, right? I define the goals, right, for them, for the agents.
Yep.
But I think we've seen a lot of success with that.
It's helpful. When you're talking, what comes to my mind is that success is not a straight line. It's you got to get in the muck. And you got to work with AI, and it's how do we modify and change our people, but then how do we just begin to experiment? Is that you may not have success in day 1, or you may not have success in day 3, but it's working with it and training ourselves and learning these new tools of where we're making progress. Stephen, we help our clients a lot of building the agentic enterprise, and you're overseeing a suite of offerings. Could you tell me a little bit about some of those key offerings at 66 Degrees of helping our clients build the agentic enterprise?
Yeah, so there's really 5 offerings we're focused on right now. The first, and it depends on the maturity. It's not linear, everyone kind of comes in where it makes sense, but we start with what we call an agentic lab, where we're really understanding readiness, right, the goals of the firm, starting to put a roadmap together in terms of their infrastructure, their data, their machine learning, and their agents. From there we have what we call ADF, which is really 3 parts, but it's our framework for companies to think about how to implement agents, right? So that involves change management and fluency, oftentimes around tools like Gemini Enterprise. It's a proprietary measurement system, right? So people can understand, are people using my agents? Are those agents operating effectively, and am I getting business outcomes out of them? And then the last piece is a is a platform we refer to as the agentic lambda, right? But it's a consistent, secure way to deploy agents at scale, and avoid sprawl. So it's kind of our next offering. Next we call the MCP, or the Enterprise Toolkit,
okay,
right? And that's focused on building integrations with all kind of your critical data and enterprise systems, so agents can execute and get work done, the same ways humans can. And then the last 2 bundled together, and I don't think a lot of people talk about this, are focused on data science for agents, right? The way I like to think about this is if I create an agent, right, that sends personalized emails out, I might send a very different personalized email if I know that person's going to churn, right? But your agent doesn't necessarily know that someone's going to churn, right? So we can build models that predict, probability of churn. So, building different machine learning models, and then building an MLOps platform around that, right? To make sure we can do that consistently at scale, similar to the agentic landing zone.
You hit on it in this last piece, is what role does data science play in helping companies transform with AI and then build themselves into an agentic enterprise?
Yeah, I like to think that agents are dumb without data science. So we start with data, right, historical understanding so that agents can make decisions there. But after that, they really need to have some sense of the future, right, so they can make decisions with a long-term goal in mind.
It's clearly really clear. It's kind of the engine behind the agent, is that unless it's educated, and I would say as I'm thinking through this here, it's the data is part of that engine, and the data science is part of that engine. It's really the logic behind that agent is working, and so that allows an agent to do the task, or to perform the task that you've asked it to.
No different than a human, right? They need that same information.
Yeah, you need information and you need logic or for the data science behind what you're doing. So, Stephen, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Great to catch up.